It all began with a receipt. Not a red lipstick smudge on a shirt collar. Not a missing earring. Not even the scent of some unfamiliar perfume. Just a crumpled slip of receipt paper tucked into the footwell on the passenger side of her car. A basic piece of thermal paper. The kind most folks would just toss without thinking. But I'm not most folks. I am an engineer, and we tend to notice when the patterns shift. When something breaks from the usual routine, it stands out like a sore thumb. Caroline, my wife, kept her car cleaner than most operating rooms. She was particular, borderline obsessive. The floor mats were spotless. The glove compartment? Alphabetized. So, when I borrowed her car that morning because mine would not start, and I felt something crumple under my shoe, I bent down and picked it up. The paper was still warm from the sun, its ink starting to fade, dated from 2 nights back. It was from a bar, a place I had never heard of, let alone been to dock. Way across town, near the university. You know the kind. Fancy drinks with silly names, fairy lights strung up to hide the sticky floors, and scuffed up walls. A hangout for college kids and bartenders who look like they spend more time at the gym than behind a bar. Normally, I would not think twice. Caroline has her own friends. She goes out now and again. But later that day, I checked the calendar we both share, and there was nothing on it. That was the first thing that raised a flag in my mind. Then I turned the receipt over. There it was. A phone number. 7 digits, scribbled down fast, like someone wrote it in a rush of bad judgment. No name. Just, ask for Jay. I said nothing at dinner that night. I made pasta. She walked in with a bottle of wine, like it was any other day. Our 2 kids, Ella and Jonah, chattered away, dividing their attention between dinner and whatever cartoon they were glued to. Caroline smiled like everything was perfectly normal, like she had not received someone else's number just 2 nights ago. I smiled right back, played the part, ate my dinner, asked about her day, Doc. But in my mind, I was already laying out variables like a math problem. 2 days later, I was at my desk at the firm, typing the bar's name into Google. I found it easily enough. Yelp photos, a few inside shots, mostly dim and moody. But then I spotted one. A group of bartenders posing behind the bar, all in black shirts, arms around each other like they were in a band. Right in the middle was a guy with inked-up arms, a chiseled jaw, and a smile that looked like it belonged in a cologne ad. The caption under the photo read, Jax and the crew. Jax. The J. I did not really know what I expected to feel, but I stared at that photo for a long time, studying how he leaned into the camera. Confident. Handsome. The kind of guy who looks like trouble, but gets away with it. It was not jealousy. I did not get jealous, but I was damn sure curious. Why him? Caroline and I had been together for over a decade, married for 9 years. We first met in a line at the Department of Motor Vehicles, of all places. She cracked a joke about how the wait might be longer than getting into heaven. I laughed, not because the joke was any good, but because we built a life. Steady, normal, even comfortable. 2 kids, a mortgage, summer vacations to places with playgrounds and chicken tenders on the menu. We had our routines. Saturday grocery runs. Late night shows after the kids were asleep. Quiet intimacy on weekends. I think we loved each other in the kind of way people do when life becomes more about schedules than surprises. Thoughtful little things, like her making my coffee just the way I like it or her reaching for my hand during a thunderstorm. Looking back, I see how things had started to unravel, Not loudly, not with shouting matches or slammed doors. Just little pieces breaking off. A glance missed. A smile that did not quite light up like it used to. And now, there was Jax. I did not confront her. That is not my way. I did not go in without proof. I build my cases with a foundation, brick by brick. So I got to work. I installed a keylogger on the home laptop. Cloned her phone using an old Android I had tucked away in a drawer and a discreet little app. Dropped a tiny voice recorder beneath the driver's seat in her car. Hid another in her gym bag. I knew the laws. I did not break into anything. I just listened. At first, it felt like data collection, like a research project, until I heard her voice. I cannot stop thinking about Friday, she whispered, followed by a soft laugh. You are so bad for me. Then his voice answered, a little muffled, but clear enough. Bad never felt so good, baby. My stomach clenched. But my hand stayed steady as I copied the recording onto a separate file and named it subject_confirmation.mp3. That night, she curled up next to me like nothing had happened. Maybe for her, nothing had. But I looked at her and saw a stranger now, breathing quietly beside me, dreaming of someone else's hands. I lay awake for hours, staring at the ceiling fan and wondering how long she had been gone. Not physically, but in every other way. How long had I been living with a ghost? I was not going to yell. I was not going to cry. This was not a soap opera. This was Chesta, and she just moved her queen. Now it was my turn. The very next day, I went to that bar. I was not there to drink. Ordered water with lemon. Sat at the end of the bar where I had a clear view, but did not stick out. I had timed it right, mid-shift on a Tuesday. Quiet. Not many customers. Low risk of seeing anyone I knew. The place looked exactly like the photos. Exposed brick. Edison bulbs. Cocktails with dumb names like Whiskey Business and Rum Forest Rum. Then I saw him. Same tattoos. Same tight black shirt. Same cocky grin. This time pointed at a blonde down the bar. He leaned close while pouring her drink, and she laughed like he was the funniest guy in the world. Smooth. Effortless. Like he had done it 1,000 times before. I watched him work. Studied how he moved. Noticed how he touched her hand when he handed her the glass. There was nothing fake about his charm. That was the worst part. He believed in it. After a while, he finally walked over to me. "What can I get you, man?" "Just water," I told him. "Driving." "Respect," he said with a nod. "You here for trivia night?" "No, just watching people." He gave me a polite smile and walked off. I had not expected him to recognize me. Why would he? Caroline would never show him a picture, but I studied him like I would a blueprint, looking for the cracks. There was a buzz of energy in him, the kind that does not settle. He liked the thrill. He was chasing something more than just tips. I left a $20 tip on the counter. I wanted him to remember my face, even if he had no clue why. Back home, Caroline was folding laundry like any other night. The kids were in the playroom, watching some loud cartoon. She looked up, smiled, and said, "Hey, where did you disappear to?" "Had to swing by a supplier," I lied. "They messed up one of the shipments." She nodded, completely unbothered. Just another night with the perfect wife. We ate chicken stir-fry with rice and sparkling water. The kind of dinner that pretends nothing is wrong. But I could taste the silence between us. I watched her hands. Her wedding ring still in place. Did she take it off when she saw him? Or did she leave it on to feel a little more dangerous? Later, when the kids were in bed and she stepped into the shower, I pulled out the clone phone. It buzzed with a new message. "Miss your lips already. You free Friday." There was a pause before she replied. "Maybe. I will text after I check my schedule." Might have to lie again. Just say it's a girls' night. That usually works. Laughing out loud. "You are bad. But you love it." I shut the phone. Sat in the dark for a while. Eyes wide open. No blinking. No shaking hands. Just quiet. This was not a slip-up. This was a pattern. She was not just cheating. She was enjoying it. The next morning, I called in a favor. A friend in information technology owed me from a past project. I told him I needed everything. Locations, deleted messages, recordings, images. If this guy sent her pictures, I wanted those too. By Thursday, I had the full picture. They had met at least 6 times in the past month. Mostly motels. One hotel, not fancy, but not a dive either. Paid in cash. Clean sheets. Texts about how she moaned. How she could not stay away. Photos. One of him shirtless, holding a drink. Another of her legs, bare and crossed on a motel bed. No face in the shot. She was careful, but she was predictable. Friday arrived fast. She told me she was going out with Beth from yoga. Dinner and drinks. "Might be back late," she said. "Have a good time," I replied, kissing her on the forehead like always. She smiled, held it just long enough to sell the story. As she pulled out of the driveway, I followed 5 cars back in a rented sedan, one she would not recognize. She drove straight across town. Not to Beth Place, to a cheap hotel off the highway. Room 214. I parked across the street in a dark corner of a nearly empty lot. Just me, the stillness, and my camera with a long lens. From where I sat, I had a clear view of the hotel door. When she showed up, Jax was already there waiting. She kissed him. No hesitation. Not a quick peck. This was deep familiar. The kind of kiss people save for someone they have missed. And then, just like that, they vanished inside. I did not break down. I did not yell or hit the steering wheel. I just sat there, the engine off, listening to the rhythm of my own breathing. The photos I had taken were time-stamped and clear. They were not just pictures, they were proof. And with that, the pieces I had been collecting finally started forming a complete structure. This was no longer about saving anything. Not a marriage, not a bond, not even the idea of her. This had turned into something else entirely. I was preparing for work, and she did not even know a battle had started. By Saturday morning, I felt calm. Strangely so. After what I'd seen the night before, the way she held on to him, her lips on his neck, her hands sliding down to places that should never belong to someone else, I expected to feel rage. Something violent, something fiery, but what I felt was cold, focused, like standing in front of a house already set to burn and knowing you're not going to stop it. You're just going to watch. I had been her husband. I had been a provider, a father, or at least I believed I was. But that version of me no longer existed. Now I was something else. I had time to, I had facts to, and I had reason. That morning, I printed out the photos. Not all of them, just the ones that said the most without saying too much. The two of them at the door, their lips locked, her hand wrapped around his back. Nothing inappropriate, but enough to cause damage if it came to court. I slipped them into a plain envelope and wrote one word across the front: insurance. Then, I did something completely unexpected. I cleaned the garage, threw out old junk, sorted tools, made space on shelves. On the surface, it looked like a normal Saturday chore, something any family man might do. But underneath, it was the beginning of something else. I was clearing room, not just physically, but in my head. Later that afternoon, I took Ella and Jonah to the park. We played catch, swung on the swings. They laughed like the world was exactly how it should be. And that was when the ache hit me, not for myself, but for them. They were living inside a lie. Their mother came home from hotel rooms with another man and still smiled like she had baked them cookies. She looked them in the eyes like everything was fine. And I realized right there, my kids deserved more than this. And I would not let her take them from me without a fight. That evening, I watched her closely. She came through the door late again. Hair a little messy, not enough for most to notice, but I noticed. I acted like I did not. How is Beth? I asked. She is good, she said, kicking off her shoes. We had drinks down by the pier. Caught up for a while. I nodded and kept my eyes on the television. Tell her I said hello next time. I will. Her lies were like glass, clear, polished, and dangerous when broken. And that is when it hit me. She was not struggling with this. She was not torn, not guilty, not even conflicted. She was comfortable. The marriage, the affair, the whole setup, it worked for her. And that made her a threat. Come Monday, I went to see a lawyer. But not for representation. Not yet. This was the attorney she had quietly spoken to years ago, not long after Jonah was born. She claimed it was about updating her will. But I had spotted the legal invoice tucked into a stack of old healthcare bills she had never properly filed. So I walked into that sleek office under a different name. Jeremy Hall, I said, extending my hand, looking to discuss a possible separation. The man was sharp, the kind who wore shiny shoes and cufflinks that probably cost more than my suit. We kept things general. No names. Just a husband. A suspected affair. 2 kids under the age of 10. Then I asked the question that really mattered. If my wife had already come to you in the past, does that mean she cannot use you again? He nodded without hesitation. Yes. That would be a conflict of interest. She would be blocked from hiring us. Excellent, I said, shaking his hand again. That is all I needed. I paid for the session, thanked him, and left. Another piece off her side of the board. In the next few days, I visited 3 more top lawyers in the city, each one more expensive and better connected than the last. And with each visit, I made it impossible for her to retain their services. I was not filing. Not yet. But when the time came, I wanted her scrambling for help while I stood behind a fortress. Let her dig through old contacts. I was building walls while she was still playing pretend. Friday rolled around, and she had another one of her girls' nights. Same hotel doc. Same anda. Same web of lies. This time, I did not follow her. I did not have to. The recorder in her purse told me everything. Her laughter, the clinking of drinks, the sound of the headboard knocking softly against the wall. I did not flinch. I sat in my home office with a cup of coffee and opened up a new spreadsheet. I labeled it War Budget, Private Investigator, Family Law Specialist, Digital Forensics. I listed every tool I might need, tallied my assets, updated my will, removed Caroline as my medical decision-maker, changed my life insurance beneficiaries to my sister, froze the credit card she used for online shopping. The card we still shared? I left them alone, Doc. Let her keep spending. Let her feel safe. The debt she was racking up? That was going to come due. On Sunday, we took the kids out for brunch. Warm weather, a nice patio, French toast and juice, laughter and smiles that could have fooled anyone. She reached across the table, touched my hand. "You have been so sweet lately," she said, smiling at me like I was still hers. I kissed the back of her hand. "You bring it out of me." She giggled. Her eyes sparkled. And in that moment, I saw it clearly. She was not just getting away with it. She was loving it. The lies. The thrill. Balancing her life between mom, wife, and secret lover. It was a game she was winning. And people like that, you do not talk them down. You take them apart, one piece at a time. I waited until Monday. There is something fitting about starting the first real move of a battle at the beginning of a work week, when people are tired, distracted, and vulnerable. I walked into the Hollow, Jax's bar, and sat in the exact same spot as before. Same hour, same quiet, half-empty room. This time, he recognized me. "Hey, man," he said, drawing a glass. "Back again." I looked up slowly. "Yeah, thought I'd go with something stronger today." He smiled. "Whiskey. Neat." He poured, slid the glass my way, and I placed a small black envelope on the bar. "What is that?" he asked. "Proof you were sleeping with a married woman," I said. He froze. No smart remarks. No fake confusion. Just a blink. His jaw tensed. "Go ahead," I told him. "Take a look." He opened it like it might explode. And when he saw the photos, his whole face turned pale. The timestamp, the door, the way her hand was on his back. "I had no idea," he started. "You did not care," I said. He gave a slow nod. "That was enough." "You know her name?" I asked. "Caroline." "Her last name?" He said nothing. "Figures." I finished the drink. "Here's the thing, Jax. I'm not the type who throws punches. I do not yell or slam doors. But I am patient, and I am precise." He swallowed hard. "You already made a big mistake getting involved with her. The next mistake would be staying in it. And after that, thinking you can walk away clean." He opened his mouth, but I stopped him with a raised hand. "Do not apologize. I'm not here for that. I'm here to give you 2 choices." He narrowed his eyes. "Option 1, you cut her off. Block her. Stop answering. Make her disappear from your life. And if I do not, then I burn every piece of your life down to ash," I said, leaning closer. "I send those pictures to your manager, your landlord, your family if I have to. I will make sure you're lucky to find work pouring gas instead of drinks." He clenched his jaw again. "Understand something," I said. "This is not about you. You're just a tool she picked up and used. I'm talking to you now because you're not the real enemy. She is." He looked back down at the photos. "I never meant." "I know," I said, standing. "But that is the thing about wrecking balls. They do not mean to destroy, but they still swing." I left the bar and did not look back. The message was delivered. Now I just had to wait and see what kind of impact it would have. 2 days later, Caroline texted him. I saw it on the clone phone. "Hey, everything all right? You've been kind of distant." No answer. Did I say something wrong? Still nothing. By Thursday night, she was pacing the bedroom again. Thought I wasn't watching. But I saw everything. Her thumbs flying across the screen, her jaw tight, like she was texting with someone slipping through her fingers. She called him too. Straight to voicemail. She did not suspect me. Not yet. That part mattered. In her head, the blame was on him. Later that evening, she sat on the edge of our bed, clutching her phone like it held her last hope. I almost laughed out loud, but I didn't. Instead, I paid a quiet visit to her office the next day. Not to confront her. I just wanted to observe. Caroline worked for a public relations firm downtown. The kind of place with all glass walls, spotless white desks, and those tiny potted plants that no one ever actually waters. I watched from across the street, leaning on a parking meter. She looked the part, professional, polished, in control, smiling like nothing beneath her skin was falling apart. That afternoon, I left a manila envelope with the front desk. It was addressed to Human Resources, confidential. Inside, I included 3 photographs, nothing too dramatic but enough to raise questions. A short letter came with them, pointing out the company's fraternization policy and suggesting that one of their employees might be mixing personal affairs with work-related travel. The note mentioned a bartender by name. That was all. No signature. It wasn't enough to fire her. Not yet. But it was a shot across the bow. I knew she would spiral. Caroline always liked to believe she was the one in control. She built her life to look like something out of a perfectly filtered photo feed. Clean, ideal, picture perfect. But her weakness was pride. She believed she was untouchable. When Jax cut her off, she started coming undone fast. By Friday, she was pouring herself wine before the sun even hit its peak. She snapped at the kids. I heard her crying softly over the kitchen sink. I stayed back, let her have her moment. I kept playing the role of the calm, caring husband. "You all right?" I asked that night, pretending to watch television. "Just work stress," she said, rubbing her temple. "Everything's hitting at once. Anything I can do to help?" She gave me a small smile. "You've been amazing lately." "I really mean that." She reached out and touched my arm. I smiled right back, even as I was lining up the final pieces to take her down. That weekend, I met up with Michelle, an old friend from college who had become a divorce lawyer. Smart, precise, and colder than a January wind. I laid out everything for her. The affair, the recordings, the cloned phone, the financial records. She leaned back, arms crossed, eyes sharp. "When are you going to confront her?" she asked. "Not yet," I said. She sipped her coffee. "You're waiting for her to crack first." "No," I said. "I want her to fall apart without knowing why." And she was. 2 more weeks passed. Jax never responded. No calls, no texts, nothing but silence. And Caroline was falling apart by the hour. She checked her phone like it was going to breathe life back into her. She stopped talking about her friend Beth. No more mysterious girls' nights. No more sudden perfume and heels at 7 p.m. Instead, she stayed home and tried to overcorrect. She cooked dinner, set the table, got dressed like we were going on dates we never planned. She touched me in ways she had not bothered to in months. A lesser man might have mistaken it for rekindled affection. But I knew better. It was not love, it was fear. She felt the shift, the balance changing, but she could not figure out where the pressure was coming from. That was the beauty of it. The confusion, the crawling dread. She had no idea what direction to run. And me? I just watched. There is something cruel but honest that comes when you finally see the truth. You look at someone you thought you knew, and all you can see are the mechanics behind their charm. The gears behind every smile. The strategy in every touch. She was not trying to repair anything, She was trying to resecure the man who let her get away with everything. But I wasn't him anymore. On Wednesday night, I came home late. Some meeting ran long. She was on the couch when I walked in, knees tucked up under her, the television glowing with something she was not really watching. "You okay?" I asked, hanging my keys. She nodded, but it was the kind of nod that means the opposite. "I don't know," she said quietly. "Feels like something's off lately. Do you feel it too?" I sat down beside her, kept my voice even. "Yeah," I said. "I've been feeling it for a while." She turned to me, wide-eyed. "Do you think it's us?" I let the silence hang in the air long enough for it to weigh on her. "Maybe," I said at last. "Or maybe it's something else." Her voice trembled. "Are you seeing someone?" The irony almost made me laugh. "No," I said. "Are you?" She snapped a look at me, too fast, too sharp. "No. God, no. Why would you think that?" "Good question." But I did not say a word. I just nodded. All right, let her sit in that silence. Let the suspicion eat at her. She was unraveling, and I was just pulling thread. That weekend, I visited Jax again. Not at his bar this time. At his apartment. A rundown second-story unit near the old warehouses. He answered the door, shirtless, like we were friends, like I had not threatened to take his life apart a week ago. Really? I said. He shrugged. Didn't think you'd actually come. I walked in. The place smelled like weed and some kind of air freshener. Posters on the wall. Couch cushions that did not match. Looked like a teenager's first apartment. She's still trying to reach you, I said. I know. You respond yet? He shook his head. Thought about it. Almost did. Then I remembered what you said. I dropped a manila folder on his table. He raised an eyebrow. What's that? Payment, I told him. For playing your role. He opened the folder. No cash. Inside was a notarized statement. A full confession, signed and witnessed. It laid out the affair in black and white. Names, dates, locations. It even included a paragraph saying he knew she was married after the first time and chose to continue anyway. He looked up jaw tight. You're serious. Dead serious. You want me to sign this? No. I want you to think real hard about what happens if you don't. He stared at it for a long minute. Finally, he sighed. You know she's going to find out. She'll lose her mind. I nodded. That's the idea. And he signed. Back home, Caroline was folding laundry on the couch while the kids ran around upstairs. I stood in the hallway watching her, quietly, for a full minute before stepping in. She looked up and gave me that small, tired smile. Hey, how was your day? Got a lot done, I said, taking a seat. She kept folding, but I could feel her glance in my direction. She hated the silence now. Could not handle it. Can I ask you something? She said. Of course. If something was wrong, really wrong, you'd tell me, right? I tilted my head. Would you? She flinched. Just a flicker. But I saw it. I didn't mean. I know exactly what you meant. I stood up, walked over, leaned down, and kissed her forehead. You're a talented liar, Caroline, but you're a terrible actress. And then I left the room. That night, I slipped the signed affidavit into a safe deposit box under a company name I had created a few weeks back. I had made several of those lately. Caroline did not know it yet, but most of our joint assets had already been moved. Bank accounts were cleared. Investments sold. The house? Remortgaged under my name only. That took a quiet change in jobs and a few forged signatures she never noticed. All clean, all above board, and none of it reversible. The next day, around lunchtime, she got served. At work, in front of her coworkers, her assistant, probably even her manager. Divorce papers, citing infidelity. Attached was the signed confession from Jax and a stack of printed text messages from the clone phone. I was not there to see her face when it happened, but I did not need to be. Her carefully balanced double life came crashing down behind the glass walls of a boardroom. She did not come home that night. No call, no message. The kids did not seem to notice. They were used to her last-minute work emergencies. I sat at the kitchen table, sipping coffee, waiting. The documents for full custody were already sitting in the printer tray. Because this was not the end. This was the opening act of her downfall. And I was just getting started. She walked through the door at 2:17 in the morning. I was still sitting there in the dark. I would not have missed it for the world. She tried to sneak in like nothing had happened. Keys barely made a sound. Shoes dangling from one hand, streaks of mascara under her eyes. But when she stepped into the hallway and saw me standing there, she stopped cold, like a kid caught stealing. She looked different, not just tired, worn down, like someone who had finally realized the walls were closing in. You were still up, she said, like that was the part that mattered. I looked her over and answered flatly, You look rough. She said nothing, just dropped her heels by the door and walked toward the kitchen. I followed her, slow and silent. I assume you read the documents, I said from behind her. She froze, stiffened, her back still turned. She started, voice dry and shaky. You blindsided me. That's a funny thing to say, I told her, considering how you handled things. She turned around, shoulders tense. How could you serve me at my job? I thought it was appropriate, I said, seeing as that is where you took him during those business trips. Her mouth opened. No sound came out. Her jaw clicked shut as whatever defense she had crumbled before she could say it out loud. It's not what you think. No, I said, stepping forward calm but firm. No more stories. No more rehearsed lines. We are done with that. She lowered her eyes, finally quiet. I have got the messages, the photos, the recordings. You were sleeping with him for 6 months, probably longer. And now you're acting like your biggest concern is how I exposed it. I expected yelling, accusations, something dramatic. Instead, she sat down at the kitchen island and stared at the counter like she was trying to disappear into it. I didn't plan for it to go that far, she whispered. They never do, I said. She looked up, eyes wet, face pale. He did not mean anything. Then congratulations, I said. You threw away everything for nothing. She flinched. It hit her hard, but I still did not raise my voice. I would not give her that. I did love you, she said, almost begging. No, I told her. You love the life, the comfort, the easy part of being loved without doing the work of loving someone back. She bit her lip, looked away. It was not about love, she said quietly. It was just different. And there it was. Different. That word. That excuse. The polite way of saying, he gave me something you didn't. You know what I figured out? I asked. This wasn't about passion. It was not about connection. It was about control. About feeling wanted without responsibility. He made you feel young, attractive, untouchable. And that was all it took. She did not argue. She just cried. Tears slid down her cheeks as her hands shook on the countertop. And I watched, not because I enjoyed it, but because it needed to happen. This house is mine now, I said after a moment. I filed for exclusive occupancy. The court order will be delivered tomorrow. Her eyes shot up. What? You cannot do that. I already have. I pulled a folder from the drawer and set it down in front of her. Financial records, bank transactions, legal documents. Copies for her attorney, if she could even find one who was not already conflicted out. You will get visitation, I said, assuming the court allows it. But I have filed for full custody. The case is ready. I have the evidence. And you gave it to me. Gary, she whispered, tears running down her chin, please, do not do this to the kids. I'm not, I replied. You did. I turned and headed for the stairs. I was halfway up when she called out behind me. Did you ever love me? I stopped, turned my head just slightly, still not facing her. I loved the version of you that loved me. The next morning, I met with my lawyer. He handed me a folder as I sat down. Her human resources department opened an internal review, he said. She's been placed on leave pending the outcome. I nodded. She's calling around for lawyers, but you already met with the best ones in town. She's stuck with someone fresh out of law school. Good. He smiled faintly. You are starting to scare me, Gary. I looked straight at him. She lied her way into this life. She does not get to lie her way out without paying for it. She's asking for mediation. Tell her no. She says she just wants to talk. She lost at right the moment she slept with a bartender who wears fake Southern charm like cologne. He chuckled. You always were the quiet type. No one saw this coming. Neither did she. 2 days later, she was gone. The sheriff stood by while she collected a suitcase and a cardboard box full of bathroom junk. She kept looking around the house like it belonged to someone else now. And in a way it did. She said nothing as she left, just stared at me from the doorway, with eyes full of something between confusion and heartbreak. Like she had just met me for the first time and realized she never knew me at all. Maybe she never did. When the door clicked shut, I finally exhaled. For the first time in 10 years. 10 years of holding back. Of brushing off small hurts. Of swallowing my own pride to make things work. 10 years of loyalty that never once asked for anything but honesty. And all it took to bring it down was a bartender. Well, a bartender and me. Because I did not just find out about her affair. I dismantled her life, brick by brick. The court order did not crush her. Not yet. I thought that would be it. Thought she would fade out of our lives without much resistance. Just quietly slip into some rented apartment she could barely afford with half her paycheck and a reputation in ruins. But I underestimated Caroline's pride. 3 days after she left, I got a call from the kids' school. She was here, the principal said softly. She is not allowed to have contact outside of supervised visits. I replied, keeping my tone flat. Understand, she said. She never came inside, just sat in her car. She stayed out there for over an hour. Got it. I hung up without another word. No reaction, just another entry in a log I had been keeping for months. That night, she sent me a message. Can we please talk? 1 hour. That's all I'm asking. I ignored it. The next morning, another one came through. You don't even realize what you're doing. You're making me look like the bad guy. That one actually made me laugh, just a dry, bitter chuckle into my black coffee. Then came the voicemail. 36 seconds of crying, broken phrases, and a desperate plea about how the kids deserve two parents. I saved that one. You never know when something might be useful. The first time she broke the restraining order, she got lucky. No contact, no direct approach. Just sat in her car in the grocery store parking lot while I was inside with Ella. The second time, she showed up at Jonah's soccer game. She stayed across the street, oversized sunglasses trying to hide her face, scarf wrapped like she was starring in her own drama series. That time I called the police. She was gone by the time they arrived, but they filed a report anyway. The cracks were showing. Caroline had always needed control. Over me, the kids, the version of her life she liked to show the world. And now that it was slipping, she had no idea who she was without it. Then Jax reached out again. That part one did not expect. I figured he would disappear, go back to slinging drinks and pretending he had nothing to do with any of it. But I got a call from a block number one night. "You win," he said. I said nothing. She showed up at the bar, caused a scene, and she told me she's pregnant. I felt something cold move through my chest. "Yours?" I asked. He exhaled hard. That's what she claims. But, I don't know, do you believe her? She lies so easily I don't think she even hears herself do it anymore. So no, I don't. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. Why tell me? Because she said if you don't take her back, she's going to tell the kids everything. That you were abusive, controlling, that you drove her to cheat. My hand tightened around the phone. She said she would ruin you, he added, even if she had to go down with you. There it was, the last trick up her sleeve. A lie, dripping with desperation and ready to be weaponized. But I was not worried, because I had everything. Recordings, photos, signed statements, people willing to speak, the school principal, her human resources rep, even Beth, her supposed best friend, sent me an apologetic message full of regret and detailed timestamps. Let her try. I had enough ammo to bury her case twice over and still have room to spare. That weekend, Jonah asked about her. We were sitting on the floor, piecing together a Lego spaceship. They looked up, totally out of the blue, and said, "Why doesn't Mom live here anymore?" I met his eyes. Steady. She made some choices that weren't right for our family, I told him. So now she lives somewhere else. Did she stop loving us? No, I said. But love isn't always enough when people make bad choices. He nodded slowly, went back to building without another word. Kids are sharper than people think. They know when something is off. They can smell dishonesty the way they can smell smoke. And mine had been breathing it in for years without realizing it. Now the air was finally clear. On Monday, she showed up again. Not in court, not with a lawyer. In the parking lot of my office. Red-eyed, hands shaking, holding a thick envelope, and calling my name like it still meant something. Michelle, my assistant, the one person I trust to hold the line, stepped between us like she was built for it. "You're violating a court order," she said, arms crossed, voice like a blade. "I just want to talk to my husband," Caroline said, her voice cracking. "You lost that right," Michelle replied without blinking. Security had her off the property before I even made it to the stairs. Inside the envelope, a printed email, supposedly from Jax, a retraction of his confession. It looked fake, sloppy, probably something she wrote herself, and had him sign when he was drunk or guilty enough to bend. I handed it to my lawyer. He smiled like it was his birthday. "If she keeps this up, she'll be behind bars," he said, tapping the paper. I said nothing. I was still looking at the envelope, at the rushed handwriting on the corner. "For the sake of the kids, please." As if that had ever been her priority. The next hearing came fast. An emergency motion for full custody, now backed by multiple documented violations, formal complaints, and a statement from the kid's therapist, someone she didn't even know they were seeing. She showed up to court alone. No Jax, no family members, not a single person on her side. Her lawyer barely said a word. When the judge ruled in my favor, she didn't shed a tear, didn't throw a fit. She just looked down at her lap and whispered, "I didn't think you'd go this far." And for the first time in months, I let myself smile. "I haven't even begun," I said. 3 months later, most of the chaos had settled. Caroline was gone. The house was quiet again. The kids were safe. And on paper, I had won. People called me strong, told me I was brave. I don't know how you stayed so calm, they'd say. I never corrected them. The truth? I did not hold it together. I broke, just not out loud. Caroline ended up in a small 2-bedroom rental at the edge of the city. Her visits with the kids were supervised. Every other Saturday, she saw them at a center with mirrored walls and social workers sipping reheated coffee behind desks. Jonah wouldn't speak to her at first. Ella clung to the therapist like a shield. I never said a word to them about her. I didn't have to. Kids understand. They feel the absence long before they can name it. The court gave me full custody. No alimony. She was ordered to pay child support, but her hours were cut not long after she returned to work. Apparently, sleeping with a bartender and earning a stack of HR complaints is not great for your career. Her spiral was fast, brutal, and I let it happen. The final blow was money. She never managed finances well. Treated credit cards like they were plain money. Assumed I'd always step in to clean up the mess. But after the divorce, there was no safety net. I revoked her access, closed what was left of the shared accounts, froze the assets while my lawyer moved through the courts like a knife through silk. By the time she caught on, all she had left was a used sedan and a growing pile of unpaid bills. She emailed me once. "You win." That was all. No subject line. Nothing in the message body. I never responded. Jax. He disappeared. Last I heard, he skipped town. Someone claimed they saw him managing a bar up north. Thinner, jittery, like sleep was something he used to know. Good. Let him live under neon lights and regret, haunted by the scent of her perfume and the memory of how fast everything turned toxic once she stopped chasing. He was never the real enemy. He was just a passenger. Caroline was the one driving. Michelle, the woman who stood beside me through every storm, asked me something I hadn't let myself think about. So what now? It was a good question. I had built something out of the rubble. Rebuilt my life with cold hands and clear eyes. Protected my kids. Reclaimed my peace. And then, silence. The fight was over. The fire had gone out. But peace? That was new. And I hadn't planned for it. It found me anyway. One quiet Sunday, Jonah rode his bike without training wheels for the first time. Ella cheered from the porch like she had just won gold, and I clapped along, smiling. Not because it was over, but because it was real. That night, I sat outside with Michelle. The sky was soft. The breeze smelled like wet concrete. She handed me a glass of wine and asked, "Do you think you'll ever let someone in again?" I didn't answer right away, because I wasn't sure. Caroline had turned affection into a puzzle. She taught me to question every kind word, every lingering glance, every message that came late at night. She didn't just betray me. She made me doubt the shape of love itself. But Michelle wasn't pushing. She didn't pry. She just sat beside me, steady, quiet. And in that moment, I realized something. Caroline may have broken the illusion, but she did not break me. I was still here, still standing. And maybe that was the real victory. I still have the folder, the recordings, the text threads, the signed statement, locked in a safe nobody knows exists. Not because I plan to use them, but because every rebuilt kingdom needs a record of the fire that nearly swallowed it whole. A reminder that peace is not something you are handed. It is something you earn. And sometimes, even the quietest man in a room can light the whole world on fire, if you give him a reason.